Hey guys, Mike from my private library here with another book review. Uh, my most recent book. This is The Girl of the Sea of Cortez by Peter Benchley. This is Benchley's fourth book after, I think the one before this was The Island. And by all accounts, this is Benchley's favorite book, his most favorite thing that he ever wrote, his most personal, because it is apparently based on true events for him, and it really shows. I'm a really big fan of Jaws, both the book and the movie, but I've been meaning to go back and reread the book for a while now. Earlier in the year, I read The Deep, which was really interesting. A cool tale about the sea and adventure. Nothing amazing, but interesting. And I've been meaning to pick up some of his other stuff, like The Island. There's another one called Rummies, which isn't about the water. Uh, it's almost like a biopic about the Benchley family. And then there's another one called White Shark, which isn't really about sharks, but it kind of is. It's like sci-fi. I don't know. I heard mixed stuff about it, but I'd like to read it anyways. So basically, background for this book. In the early 80s, Benchley was in the Sea of Cortez, which is the Gulf of Baja California in Mexico, and filming. And because manta rays and hammerhead sharks have like a seasonal migration there, and it's not really understood. And while he was there, him and his filmmakers encountered a massive manta ray, 20-foot wingspan, gigantic thing, just kind of sitting there. And manta rays they're not really harmful to humans, but they're incredibly shy, and they usually swim away. And Benchley and his friend, and I think his wife even, managed to go up to this manta and ride it, which is just as incredible as it sounds. And the back of this book there's a little bit. Benchley passed away in 2006, I believe. So his wife Nancy does a little afterward talking about his experience with it, and they actually include a couple pictures of like, honest to God, look, that is Peter Benchley riding a manta ray. I mean, yeah. So this cover, not as horribly photoshopped as this cover is, it's based on true experience. And it was an older book, originally published in 1982 or 4, and I think it was out of print for a while. And now this is a new, recent paperback edition of it, put out by Ballantine, and I'm really glad that it was. So, like I said, this was Benchley's most cherished piece of work. Not exactly lauded over when it first came out, but slowly through the years, it's really developed a big cult following and has gotten really high praise. And now that I finished it, I have to agree, I am devoted now. I really love this book. I'd give it like 4.5. If I could on Goodreads, I'd give it 4.5 stars, because there's not much to it. It's a really straightforward story, but it's really, really heartfelt. You can tell Benchley put a lot of himself into it. And the way I said it is, it's his love letter to the sea and about life and, the environment and stuff like that and preserving it. It really, everything that Benchley did to, like, demonize the ocean in Jaws, as everything he did to make the ocean and sharks and wildlife seem terrifying in, like, Jaws and Beast and White Shark, he makes up for it in this. He says, nature is beautiful, life is a miracle, cherish it while you have it, and yeah, that's basically it. But it's a really interesting story. There's an island in the Gulf of California, the Sea of Cortez, and there's this girl, Paloma, who is on this island. Is really like a little fishing village, sort of straight out of like The Old Man and the Sea, and she lives with her mother and her brother. Her father died a couple years ago in a they're not called hurricanes. They're just almost like an El Nino storm, just kind of pops up out of nowhere, and he drowns. He dies. And so she is really taken after her father. He's like an adventurer, an explorer, lover of all things wildlife. Teaches her how to swim, how to dive, and it's hinted she has like a connection with animals. I mean, not to sound stupid, but she kind of has like a Eliza Thornberry way of dealing with them. She's got the gift, as it said, and whereas her brother, who was always jealous of her relationship with her father, is kind of like even though he's younger, he's like this heavy-handed, faux macho kind of douche who runs a fishing boat to support the family, and you know, she talks about the dangers of overfishing in the area, how the fishing supply is going to run short, and the fishermen don't care; they just keep wasting, throwing away fish, letting them die instead of releasing them. How overfishing is killing the territory, and they don't believe her. And she has this like secret spot. It's an old, I forget what it's called. It's a sea something. Basically, it's like an underwater volcano or mountain, and it's almost like a Garden of Eden for all these tropical fish and stuff. And that's her secret spot that her father showed her. And one day she's there and she sees this, like Benchley encountered a massive manta ray. And it's injured, it's damaged, it got caught in a net. And she dives down to meet it. She pulls like the netting out of the wound, cleans it up. The thing flies away, and she decides not to tell her brother about it. She doesn't tell her brother about her secret spot because she knows if the fishermen saw this spot, they would just destroy it. They would bring their nets and their gear and completely obliterate this special spot, just as they did the entire ocean. And then one day, either she lets it slip or someone follows her, one of her brother's fisherman friends, and they discover the seamount. That's what it's called. And it's her deciding how to fight back, whether she should fight back, because, her brother fishes for the family to survive. And it turns into a little bit of fantasy at the end, but I really guess it isn't fantasy, because we have photographic proof that Peter Benchley wrote a frickin' manta ray. So it can't be that fantastic, but it's interesting. It's a real good tale of identity, a little bit about gender, interestingly enough. Like, for a book in the early 80s, he kind of touches upon, not really gender equality, but like embracing your identity and not being ashamed of who you are and what you like, which I think is really cool. For the time period, you would, especially in a book like this, you wouldn't think it, but Benchley kind of pulls it off really good. I don't know, interesting. You wouldn't think it, but yeah. And it really has such beautiful descriptions of the oceans and the animals and stuff like that. Benchley was the perfect writer when it comes to writing about the ocean. If you've read Jaws, you'll agree. Even though he makes it seem terrifying, here he makes it seem a little terrifying, but mostly beautiful. So yeah, like it's been said that this is Benchley's most prized possession. The thing he's most proud of, and it really shows through. Like, this is his magnum opus. It's really beautiful, really well written. Not too long at all, maybe 200 pages, 220, and it's just a nice little feel-good puff piece. This is the perfect thing this time of year if you're just like sitting out by the pool and doing nothing, drinking. Read this, because it's really fun. Not I don't want to say there's no substance to it, there's no deeper meaning, because there is, but it's not too much. It's just enough, and it's not preachy about it. It's really interesting, and the whole little stuff in the back, the bonus material about Benchley's adventures in the Sea of Cortez, is really fascinating. I did not know any of it coming into the book, and it gives the book a whole new, you appreciate it on a whole new level once you've read that, and you find out this is based on a true thing, and it really speaks volumes about Benchley's dedication. Later in life, after Jaws, he was a huge advocate for preserving the oceans and wildlife and stuff like that. Really, to make up for the damage he inadvertently caused with the release of Jaws in the movie version, when sharks got hunted like 100 times more than they usually were. So yeah, this is Benchley's nice little love letter to the sea. Really beautifully written, really simple, really short, really nice. It's a good popcorn book, and I highly recommend it if you can find a copy somewhere. So yeah, that's my book review for The Girl of the Sea of Cortez. I'm going to keep looking for more Benchley books, like I said, notably The Island, Rummies, and possibly White Shark. But for now, I guess that's it until I reread Jaws. And I'm definitely going to keep this one on my shelf for a while. I really liked it. So yeah, I guess that's it. Check out the blog, myprivatelibrary.tumblr.com. Like and subscribe. Tell your friends. See you guys next time.